Get ready to embark on Lucid Journeys. Explore the Phillip Aisling multiverse.
All right, so welcome everyone to this deep dive. And today we're going to be talking about something pretty wild.
Yeah.
We're going to be jumping headfirst into Phillip Aisling's multiverse.
Have you ever had that feeling that, maybe what we experience day to day, maybe that isn't the only show in town?
Yeah.
There could be, entire worlds, whole other realities kind of humming just beneath the surface of what we usually perceive.
When we talk about lucid journeys, what are the big recurring themes or ideas that we see in these excerpts?
Well, one thing that really jumps out is this connection between dreams and the possibility of interdimensional travel.
And I think one of the things that I found so compelling was this idea that dreaming, something we all do,
right,
could actually be something really significant.
Yeah, it's like a gateway to something bigger, something more.
So join us as we journey through the lucid multiverse of Phillip Aisling, where dreams are more than just dreams.
And one last thought for you. If our dreams are glimpses into other realities, what stories might be unfolding within us every night?
That's something to think about.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, ready to dive back into the world of dreams. You know those dreams with consequences? The Dreams of Phillip Aisling.
And even more exciting, the sequel is coming out later this year.
The Lucid Multiverse. I know you all are dying to find out what happens to Phillip after that cliffhanger in the first book, but today we're going to resist those spoilers and instead explore some of the literary influences at play in this series.
It's like the author created a literary cocktail, blending elements of Roald Dahl, Lloyd Alexander, and even a little sprinkle of J.K. Rowling.
It's a delicious blend,
yeah,
for sure. Okay, so let's unpack this literary cocktail, starting with Roald Dahl. What really jumped out at you in terms of that Dahl-esque vibe?
Well, immediately you encounter those eccentric adults that Dahl is so famous for. I mean, Aunt Dee Dee, for instance, with her knack for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time is a perfect example.
Oh, absolutely. Remember when she accidentally wished for a cruise out loud at Philip's birthday dinner? Pure comedic gold. And it's that blend of humor with that slightly dark edge that I think really captures the essence of Dahl.
Exactly. It's not just about the laughs. There's often a sense of the absurd, even a touch of the unsettling lurking beneath the surface. And just like many of Dahl's protagonists, Phillip often finds himself surrounded by adults who are either oblivious to his struggles or even antagonistic, forcing him to rely on his own wit and resourcefulness.
It makes you wonder if those adults are going to get their comeuppance in the sequel, just like some of those awful grown-ups in Dahl's stories. But beyond the quirky characters, what other Dahl-esque elements did you notice?
The family dynamics. Oh my gosh, that Christmas dinner scene in the first book was pure Dahl-esque mayhem. It reminded me of something out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but with less chocolate and a whole lot more family drama. It'll be interesting to see how those family relationships evolve in the sequel, especially with the added tension of Philip's developing powers.
Now, shifting gears a bit, Phillip's journey also have echoes of those classic heroic tales, reminding me of Lloyd Alexander's Pre-Dane Chronicles. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. The mythological framework Alexander uses in Pre-Dane is definitely mirrored in the Dreams of Phillip Aisling. Philip's discovery that he's a dreamer. His encounters with mythical creatures like the Nagwagan and the presence of a wise mentor in Gaius all point towards a classic hero's journey.
And just like Taran the hero in Pre-Dane, Phillip starts off unsure of himself, but with Gaius's guidance, he begins to embrace his destiny and face those challenges head-on.
What I find particularly interesting is how the author has taken this classic hero's journey structure and infused it with some modern sensibilities. Philip's challenges aren't just about battling mythical creatures. They're also about navigating the complexities of adolescence, understanding his place in the world and grappling with the ethical implications of his powers.
It's a classic coming-of-age story with that fantastical twist. Speaking of twists, did you pick up on any J.K. Rowling vibes in the mix?
Definitely. Especially when it comes to the school dynamics. Philip's school life with its relatable characters and those familiar challenges reminded me a lot of Hogwarts. Remember Mrs. Bishop, that strict history teacher?
Oh, she's totally the Snape of Philip's world. Always looming, ready to pounce on any mistake. And just like in Harry Potter, you have this sense of a hidden world, a secret society operating just beneath the surface of everyday life.
Right. And those magical objects Philip's Nagwagan, with its protective powers and mysterious origins, reminded me of the magical items we see in Harry Potter, each with its own unique properties and significance. It makes you wonder what other magical objects we might encounter in the sequel and what role they might play in Philip's journey.
And of course, we can't forget the authority figures that Council of Dreamers seems like it could be Philip's version of the Ministry of Magic.
Absolutely. It raises some interesting questions. Will the council be a source of guidance and support for Philip, or will they become another obstacle he has to overcome? And how will he navigate those power dynamics as his abilities grow and he becomes more aware of the larger world of dreamers?
It makes you wonder if we'll see Philip rebelling against the Council's rules, just like Harry often challenged the authority of the Ministry.
Ooh, that would be interesting. And, even though these literary influences are distinct, they seem to blend together seamlessly in Philip's world, creating a rich and layered narrative.
Okay, so we've touched upon the eccentric adults, the heroic journey, and the world of school magic, but there's so much more to explore in the dreams of Philip Aisling. Let's continue unpacking those literary influences and dive a little deeper into the themes and mysteries that we think might unfold in the Lucid Multiverse.
One thing that really struck me about the first book and something I'm eager to see explored further in the sequel is how the author weaves mythology into this contemporary setting.
Yeah, you're right. Those mythical elements really add this layer of depth and intrigue. It's not just a fantastical adventure. It almost feels like a modern-day myth in the making. What specific mythical elements stood out to you?
Well, the Noggin, for instance, is a fantastic example. It's not just a magical object. It's a creature, steeped in mythology, a protector, imbued with this ancient power. And it acts as a kind of talisman for Philip, grounding him in this increasingly unpredictable world of dreams.
Yeah, it's almost like a physical manifestation of Philip's connection to this other realm, this hidden world of dreamers and their ancient traditions.
Exactly. And then you have those shadowy figures, the Draiths. They're more than just scary monsters. They really represent those darker aspects of the dream realm, the fears and anxieties that can manifest in our subconscious.
They're like the embodiment of those nightmares that linger even after you wake up, leaving you with that sense of unease. It makes you wonder if those Draiths are just projections of Philip's own fears, or if they represent a larger, more sinister force at play.
That's a question I'm hoping the sequel will answer. But either way, they definitely add to that sense of danger and suspense. And speaking of suspense, one of the things I'm most curious about is how the author will develop the concept of the Lucid Multiverse in the sequel.
Right. That title alone is enough to get your imagination racing. What do you think it implies about the direction of Philip's journey?
Well, based on what we saw in the first book, it seems like Philip's dreams aren't just random occurrences. They're connected to something larger, a network of interconnected realities. Remember that scene where he meets the metaphysician?
Oh yeah, the metaphysician. He introduced Philip to those mind-bending ideas about quantum realities and the fifth dimension. It was like stepping into a science fiction novel for a moment.
Exactly. And those concepts seem to foreshadow the possibility that Philip's dreams might be glimpses into alternate timelines or even different dimensions.
So it's not just about Philip learning to control his dreams. It's about him potentially navigating this vast, uncharted territory of the multiverse. It's like taking the hero's journey to a whole new level.
Exactly. And if we connect this back to those literary influences we were discussing earlier, it's like the author has taken elements of Dahl's dark whimsy, Alexander's mythological framework, and Rowling's hidden world of magic, and woven them together into this tapestry of interconnected realities.
It's a mind-blowing concept, and I can't wait to see how the author brings it to life in the sequel. But beyond the cosmic implications, what do you think this means for Philip on a personal level?
Well, I think it adds a layer of emotional complexity to his journey. He's not just dealing with the everyday challenges of being a teenager. He's also grappling with the realization that his dreams have the power to shape reality, potentially even across multiple dimensions.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah.
It's like that classic superhero dilemma amplified 1,000-fold. With great power comes great responsibility and all that. It makes you wonder how Philip will handle the weight of knowing that his choices could have consequences that ripple across the multiverse.
Right, and it's not just about the cosmic implications, it's about the personal stakes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Philip's relationships with his friends and family are deeply entwined with his journey. How will his growing abilities affect those relationships? Will he be able to confide in them? Will they understand what he's going through?
And speaking of relationships, I'm particularly curious to see how his dynamic with Cynthia evolves in the sequel. Their friendship was such a strong element in the first book, and it seemed like there were hints of something more developing between them.
Oh, absolutely. Their connection added a layer of warmth and vulnerability to Philip's story. And in a world where dreams are bleeding into reality, Having that grounding force of a true friend, someone you can trust and confide in, is essential.
It makes you wonder if their bond will be strong enough to withstand the challenges they're facing, especially with the added complexities of the multiverse and the potential for their dreams to intertwine in unexpected ways.
And let's not forget the role of the Council of Dreamers. They seem to represent both guidance and control. Will they support Philip as he navigates the multiverse, or will they try to restrict his powers, fearing the potential consequences?
That's a dynamic I'm really eager to see explored. It's like the classic tension between individual freedom and societal control, but with a fantastical twist. And then there are those enigmatic figures we glimpsed in the opening chapters of the sequel, the ones who seem to be aware of Philip's dreams and are potentially manipulating them for their own purposes.
Those figures definitely add an element of mystery and intrigue. They seem to represent a darker, more insidious force, perhaps linked to the encroaching darkness that was hinted at in the first book.
It's like the author is layering these different levels of conflict, from Philip's internal struggles to the external threats posed by those mysterious figures and the potential conflict with the Council of Dreamers.
It's a recipe for a truly compelling narrative, and I can't wait to see how all these threads weave together in the Lucid Multiverse.
Me neither. But let's pause here for a moment and reflect on what we've discussed so far. We've talked about the literary influences, the mythical elements, the expanding scope of the multiverse, and the complex relationships that are at the heart of Philip's journey.
It's clear that the author has created a world that's both familiar and fantastical. A world where dreams have the power to shape reality, and where a young man's journey of self-discovery becomes intertwined with the fate of the multiverse itself.
It's a story that sparks the imagination, raises profound questions, and leaves us eager to turn the page and discover what happens next. As we've been talking about all these literary influences and these mind-boggling possibilities of the multiverse, I keep coming back to one central question.
What's that?
Why do we care so much about Philip? What makes his story resonate with us beyond all the cool, fantastical elements?
I think it's because at its core, The Dreams of Phillip Aisling is a story about growing up, about finding your place in the world, and grappling with those huge questions about identity and purpose and belonging.
Right. It's not just about the dreams. It's about the human experience that kind of grounds those dreams. Philip is just this teenager trying to figure out adolescence, but with this extraordinary ability that, throws his whole world into question.
Exactly. He's dealing with school and friends and family drama, all the things we can relate to. But then he's also wrestling with the responsibility of these powers and what he can actually do.
Yeah, it makes him such a relatable character, even though he's living in this extraordinary world. We've all felt that sense of being overwhelmed by our emotions, unsure of where we fit in, afraid of making the wrong choice.
And those feelings are amplified for Philip because his choices could literally have consequences that ripple across realities. Talk about pressure.
It's like that classic coming-of-age story where the protagonist feels different, like they don't quite fit in, but then that difference turns out to be something extraordinary. But in Philip's case, that something extraordinary is a bit more mind-boggling than your average teenage angst.
And it's not just about Philip's internal struggles. He's got this amazing support system, his friends, his mentors, who help him navigate those challenges and ground him when things get overwhelming, especially Cynthia.
Oh, I am so invested in their relationship. She's not just a sidekick. She's his confidant, his voice of reason, and possibly even more. It's like their connection is this anchor in this sea of uncertainty.
Absolutely. Their bond is a testament to the power of friendship, the importance of having someone you can trust and rely on, even when your world is literally turning upside down.
And with the introduction of the multiverse in the sequel, it makes you wonder how their relationship will be tested. Will they be able to navigate these new challenges together? Will their dreams intertwine?
Ooh, that's one of the things I'm most excited to find out. It's clear that their connection is going to be a central element to the story, and I have a feeling it's going to be both heartwarming and heartbreaking.
Definitely. And then there's that looming darkness, those mysterious figures lurking in the shadows. They add a layer of suspense and danger that keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, they're a reminder that even in a world of dreams and infinite possibilities, there are still forces of darkness and conflict. It makes you wonder, what are their motives? What role will they play in Philip's journey, and how will he confront them?
It feels like the author is setting the stage for a truly epic showdown, a clash between light and darkness that will determine the fate of not just Philip's world, but potentially the whole multiverse.
It's both exciting and a little terrifying to think about the implications, but ultimately, I think that's what makes this series so compelling. It's a story that blends the personal and the cosmic, the familiar and the extraordinary, in a way that keeps you engaged on every level.
It's like the author saying, yes, dreams are powerful, but they're also rooted in our humanity. And it's that humanity, those connections we forge with others, that ultimately guides us through the darkness and helps us find our way.
Beautifully said. And as we eagerly await the release of the Lucid Multiverse, I think it's worth reflecting on one final thought.
What's that?
If our dreams have the power to shape reality, then what kind of world will we create with ours?
That's a powerful question to ponder as we step back into Philip's world and embark on this next chapter of his journey.
I don't know about you, but I'm counting down the days until the Lucid Multiverse hits the shelves.
Me too. It's going to be an incredible ride, and we'll be right there with you, dissecting every detail, uncovering every hidden clue, and exploring all those mind-blowing possibilities. So stay tuned, dream travelers, and keep those imaginations fired up.